Energy Crunch Research report.
They do want to build new infrastructure, and obviously they have to make money doing so, but the viability of their projects is continually threatened by government policy on various types of infrastructure.
For very many households, it's already a very realistic prospect that they're without electricity an essential service.
There may well be a few half hours in winter evenings if demand is very high because it's cold and it's not windy, when National Grid will have to persuade some industrial customers to use less power, paying them for doing so, and possibly even a few ordinary domestic customers might need to be switched off for a period if we get to a real crisis.
The reason we're having this debate tonight is that the policies have become slightly skewed, i.e. the closure programme is running pretty much the time, but the new build programme is running a few years late.
The process used to get planning permission depends on the proposed size of the station. So it depends on the capacity, proposed capacity. So if it's a large station, then they have to use the Planning Act 2008 regime, which is a separate bespoke regime. For smaller projects, it's the conventional town and country planning system.
It's going to be the first first time in 30 years that we don't have any public funding at all for energy efficiency in this country.
There are huge opportunities if we can cut out the amount of energy that we waste in businesses, in industry and for domestic customers. So we're hoping that the government regard that as a first fuel response to our energy challenges and the energy crunch that it looks like we're going to face.
If they don't build the stations, you get some periods when the price, in individual hours, when the wholesale price goes very high. In the long run, those two should even out, but economists are far too fond of waiting for the long run for everything to be okay. And certainly adding additional subsidies is not going to be good news for bills unless we can insulate houses to get the quantity that people have to buy down, and perhaps even persuade house builders to build new houses that are energy efficient.
The danger that if they do get things wrong, then we could suddenly have an uncontrolled blackout of the sort that happens every few years somewhere around the world. In terms of the security of supply that we had with the miners' strike 30 years ago, that actually makes it less likely because we'll be burning less fuel and therefore we're less dependent on whoever's got their hand on the fuel tap.
Europe in 2015 imported 35 million tonnes of LNG, and LNG is now the swing supplier into Europe, so it's effectively the price setter. And what the forward curve is telling you at the moment is that that price setter has already migrated, before any ships have arrived, from LNG coming out of Qatar, LNG coming out of Trinidad, into US LNG. Which means that we get a direct linkage in our gas price to the US shale-driven price, which is Henry Hub, plus the cost of shipping it over here, which is roughly $3.25.
That's a huge topic. Unfortunately, what we have at the moment is a very, very, very interventionist energy policy. And that intervention is meant to shape the energy sector in a certain direction, which is towards low carbon, using particular technologies the government favours. Unfortunately, when you intervene in markets, you often get unintended consequences. And this market is now ripe with unintended consequences. And oddly enough, despite all the effort and all the subsidy being put in to shape the market in a certain direction, the net result is actually the market is beginning to freeze up. So, what do you say? Do you have more interventions, different types of interventions, or do you actually try less interventions? I would definitely be in the less intervention camp and actually try and get some market forces working again in what is actually still meant to be a market.
I think the main advice is actually get really good advisors on board, not just lawyers but good consultants, etc. Because the landscape is changing all the time, whether it's regulatory, legal, etc. So I think having a core advisory team in place is really important.